Okay, this interview will be used for the purpose of a class assignment for FAU School of Social Work. Do I have your permission to film you?
Do.
Wonderful. This is Miss Jana Thomas here. If you don't mind, I'm just going to ask you some questions. Well, I definitely wanted to ask you what inspired you to go into this field. If you don't mind explaining that a little bit.
Well, I think part of my wanting to do it and have kept me doing it so long is because of my disability. I've been disabled since birth. I have spina bifida, and I know what the dogs in my life have meant to me. And through the years, I've seen that with other people. Even though they're not their dogs, my dogs. As you interviewed some other people there, they feel that my dogs are their dogs because they see them so regularly. So, they become part of their family too. So
a lot of talk was brought up about children, I realize, when they were holding Joy. It brought them back to talking about their own children.
Right.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty
and their
inspirational.
Own dog, and their own pets.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd also like to ask you, what qualities does Joy have that makes her a good therapy dog?
She's so mellow, and like I mentioned to you, I call her Zen because
Right.
she's very calming, and how can you? I've had people say they don't need pain medication when they hold the dogs.
Wow.
When I've gone to the children's hospitals, kids might be screaming because they're about to do a procedure on them. You bring the dog over and it calms them down, and they can give them their medication or do the procedure on them. So they're just very calming.
Calming.
Joy is just...
She is very
she
calming.
has several nicknames, one of which is a pillow because she's,
Uh-huh.
not much more active than a pillow. So that's what makes her such a good therapy dog. And Pogo was like that. My dog that I lost a few months ago. He was a lot bigger, so he couldn't go on as many laps because he
Right.
weighed
Not
a lot
necessarily a
more.
pillow dog, but
Yeah.
different qualities.
Right.
Okay. I'd also like to ask you, can you tell me about a moving and or inspirational experience you've had while working in this field, maybe with a client, or something that stands out to you?
Well, I was a hospice volunteer for 19 years, and one instance, it was my first visit at this one particular unit, and this woman was laying on her side, and her husband was in the room with her, and I was with the activities, the volunteer manager was showing me around the place, and she went and she was wondering if we could bring the dog in to see her. And her husband said they never ever had any dogs before, and he didn't think that she was interested, and she was not doing well anyway. But I noticed she was staring at the dog, and this was actually Pogo, was the dog. And I said, well, do you mind if I bring him in and see? So I put him in bed with her, and she immediately wrapped her arms around Pogo and started smiling.
Oh,
and
my
the husband
gosh.
started crying, and she had been ill for 3 or 4 years, and he said she hadn't smiled, and that's the first smile that he'd seen in 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And she passed away the next day, so at least he got to see a
Her
smile
smile.
before she passed away. So that's one of my favorite
Wow.
stories. And and there's been a lot of stories like that.
I'm sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I definitely want to ask you about the training a little bit. Do you think that dogs that may not have such good or trainable, I wanted to know if you test a dog and they don't seem to be a good fit, do you think it's possible to train them to be...
Definitely, yeah. As long as they have the basic temperament that they really love people.
Uh-huh.
Because you can always always get obedience training to make, so they walk nicely on a leash and they don't jump up on people. And even dogs that might be a little aggressive towards other dogs, if it's not really awful, I've had people be able to train their dogs. If they put the time in, they can do it.
So if you put the time in, you think it's possible
Yeah.
for every dog, or they
No,
definitely
no,
have to
not
have the
every
basic
dog.
temperament first?
They have to, yeah, temperament is the
Yeah.
number one thing, yeah. And, there are training classes out there just for therapy dogs, and I don't really feel you need that, as long as they have a basic obedience class that you can get in most places. Not necessarily PetSmart, but there are some obedience clubs in the area that put on very good classes, and
Okay.
some other classes, and if you get a basic class where the dog can walk nicely on a leash, but the temperament, they either have that or they
either have it or they
you
don't.
can't teach temperament.
Right. That's what I was wondering the most. 'Cause I have a lot of rescue dogs. I know a lot of people rescue and would like them to become therapy dogs, but because they've had maybe trauma in the
Well,
past.
they actually can be rehabilitated. I've tested lots and lots of rescue
Yeah?
dogs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They can get over that trauma if you
You put the time into it as the
Yeah.
as a owner
Yeah.
or handler. That's nice to know.
Yeah, definitely,
Well,
definitely.
thank you so much for your
And
time.
all breeds too, not necessarily. It's
Okay.
I've tested pit bulls and
Uh-huh.
Rottweilers and Dobermans and all those supposedly vicious breeds. And
Right, and
they can become great therapy dogs as well.
that's excellent to hear.
We don't discriminate.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.